That is going to have a collision point, and those companies won't do well who are not investing in their own AI strategy, first of all, and then bringing their employees with it so that they can grow as a company. And that's what the markets really reward is growth. Growth means you have more customers who are more loyal and are giving referrals to other customers that are coming.
Welcome to Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. I'm your host, Dr. Cynthia. With over 30 years in the corporate world as a single mom, cancer survivor, and often the only woman in the C-suite, I understand the balancing act high-achieving women face. Now an executive coach and international speaker, my mission is to embolden every woman in the C-suite or on the rise to claim her agency and challenge the norms holding her back. Tailored for ambitious professional women, this show features candid conversations with powerful business leaders sharing their real stories of success and failure. If you're ready to look up and step up, you're in the right place. Join us and invest in your future today. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Climbing the Corporate Ladder Without Breaking a Heel. I am your coach and your host, Dr. Cynthia. Today's guest sits at the intersection of artificial intelligence, leadership, and the future of work. It is so exciting for me to bring forth Dr. Ayesha Khanna. She is a globally recognized AI expert, futurist, and advisor to governments and Fortune 500 organizations. She helps leaders understand not just what AI can do, but what humans must do differently as technology accelerates. This conversation is especially important for high-performing women like you and the leaders shaping systems, because the real question isn't whether AI will change work. It's whether we will design careers, cultures, and leadership models that expand human potential rather than diminish it. So, with that, my friend and contributor to my first book, Now Near Next, Dr. Ayesha, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on this amazing podcast. I'm so excited for our conversation.
I am thrilled to have you. You know, I didn't mention you're also the CEO of Addo, and you are passionate about human-centered technology and inclusion. And I know you do work with girls and bringing more girls into the STEM environment. But you've been doing a lot of things since we last connected, and we were working on the first book. Catch me
Yes.
up. Talk to me. I know you have Amplify. Just what did I mention it not mention in your bio that you've got going on right now?
Well, just two things. So, Addo, which is my AI engineering firm that I co founded almost 9 years ago, is growing leaps and bounds. We are now in the Middle East, we're in South Asia. Of course, we're in the US, we're in Singapore, and in the UK as well. So, we see a much greater demand for companies to actually use their data, build solutions that are not just pilots, but actually end to end improve their operations, improve their customer experience, and drive growth. So that's been keeping me very busy. And at the same time, I have such a passion after decades in AI, data science, machine learning to teach people how to prepare for this new age. So that's why I set up a new media education company called Amplify. And I teach and translate AI trends in a number of ways. I have a podcast, I have a newsletter, and I am now setting up a series of courses that will teach people not only the new, what I call the mini AI MBA, but also partnering with guest lecturers on how they can use specialized AI assistants, whether they're lawyers, doctors, teachers, accountants.
Oh my gosh, and you're doing all that in your spare time, I guess, because I have been following your career, as you know, for many years, probably since the early days of starting of your company when we met, because we hired
That's
you as a
right.
keynote speaker, right?
That's right.
Um, you talked recently, and it links to what you're doing in all of these areas through education, et cetera, around the efficiency gap or
Mm,
right, the efficiency equation, something of that nature. I saw it on LinkedIn Talk about your perspective on what you're seeing companies do, organizations do, that maybe is leaving a lot on the table.
One of the things that's very problematic in the way that people are approaching AI is that they're very focused on cost cutting. Now, efficiency when you're removing waste is a very good thing because you can optimize your processes. But they tend to just stop there. They think, oh, now we're done. We have cut costs. Now our work with AI, we can go and present it to the board, we can present it to the market, and we'll be rewarded for this. But the real value of AI is a two-step process. First, you redesign your processes to make them more efficient. And then you help people who now have more time, your employees who really care about your company, know your customers, are loyal to the brand, helping them then boost their engagement with customers so that they can serve them better. And the efficiency trap is that you get so excited about becoming leaner and leaner and leaner that you just, your dream is to just have costs go to zero. But actually, growth requires people, it requires strategy, it requires investment. So, the right way of thinking about it is I'm going to reduce costs here to relieve both my human capital and the funds needed to invest in better customer service, better customer outcomes, and therefore growth. And that is really important for us to have that two-step process.
I love that so much. Just to plug for a moment here, my new book, Human Capital Investment Strategy,
Yes.
which drops February 3rd. So depending on when you're listening to this of 2026, it's fundamentally about that. It's fundamentally about this notion that with the advancement of technology, more than ever, we need to be really strategic in where and how we invest in people and in what makes them uniquely human. So, what I love about the work that you're doing is you're giving a platform to help organizations and leaders do just that, right? So, I'm making the evidence-based database case for it, and then you're giving a resource that says, "And here's how." So, if you're listening, you're gonna wanna reach out and learn more about that curriculum. One of the things that I keep seeing in the data is that women are falling behind men statistically in their adoption of AI and technology, and I'd love your perspective on where does that come from? Is that anxiety? Is it fear? Is it excess? What are your thoughts?
Quite a lot of research was done to understand why women were not adopting AI rapidly. There was some research that said that women were hesitant because they didn't want to cheat with AI. So people
Mm,
said this is the good girl syndrome. But then people gave that idea up after a while and they said, well, maybe it's just that they don't have the confidence with tech. They don't put their hand up. They don't feel confident enough to experiment. But actually, this is not a new phenomenon. Women traditionally have entered technology, and AI is a kind of technology with great degrees, great grades, enthusiasm, and then somewhere along the way in their career, this is called the broken rung on the ladder.
mhm,
They fall off, they lose their confidence, and it may be because they took a break because they were with a partner, raising a pet or a child, or just taking a sabbatical. And as they grow older, there's a sandwich generation where women are the primary carers around the world, not only of their elderly parents. And
right.
that pressure, there's no place for them to be flexible in terms of keeping up with their skills. So that's the first thing. So they lose their confidence. And secondly, we haven't had enough role models that can show them that, look, the path is not linear, even though it may seem that way on social media or in Forbes magazine or in Fortune magazine, but it's jagged, it's different, and there is success at the end. The one thing they do need to do in all this process, because you can't think yourself to success and confidence, is they have to keep upskilling themselves. And the only way to do that is to have micro digestible educational content, newsletters that explain trends to you so that when you go back in tech, when you go back in AI, you really are already in the rhythm and you are in problem solving mode. That's my
Hmm.
mission, really. Not only for women, to be honest, also for men. Because men are, it's great. We're seeing more men take paternity leave. We're seeing more men contribute to the household. We're seeing more men take care of their parents. So we really need to create an opportunity for both men and women to have the confidence to step in and out while keeping up their skills in AI.
Yeah, I wanna double down on that. First of all, I mentioned on the pre-call that my son and his wife are expecting their
Yes.
first baby, and you're right, it's a very different generation. My son and
Mm.
I were talking about that. He's super hands-on. He's hands-on with the pregnancy, with the doctor's appointments, etcetera, but even their post-birth plan is,
Yes.
very much a partnership, and he's really adamant about the fact that they're doing this together. So I do see that generationally changing, which praise God. I mean, I
Mhm.
think that's a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. Um, but I want to really double down on your point. So for the woman listening that says, I've been afraid of AI
Mhm.
or, technology. It's not in my wheelhouse. I feel like I may be missing out, but I don't know where to start. What I'm hearing you say is find it in micro bits. You don't have to take an advanced course that every night of the week you're, pulled away from family or parents or significant other. That there's availability of newsletters. You offer a newsletter.
Mhm.
Say more about some of the curriculum that you're offering and how that will be or is accessible, because this is one great resource for the person listening.
Thanks, Cynthia. Basically, there are two ways to learn how to use AI. One is you have to be in the AI petri dish, right? You have to just be in that vibe, in that zone. And the best way to do that is in a relaxed way, read about what's happening in the world. My newsletter is one of them. You can go to my website, aishakhanna.com, and subscribe there. Or you can go to TechCrunch and you can and just subscribe to their newsletter. And what it does is it gives you examples of startups that are solving problems with AI, of new policies that are coming around the world. They can be fun little tidbits. And you just get in the vibe and you start to connect the dots. That is a relaxed way, no pressure, just because you're curious and you find it interesting and you get in the mode of problem solving with AI. So that's the first thing. The
Right.
second thing is, well, now you're going to go for a job interview or you're at your, management meeting and you need to put your hand up and say something. For that, the courses at the moment are two types. Either they're very theoretical, academic in nature, or they're very tool driven. So they're by all these companies that are selling tools.
Mm,
There are not so many people who are very experienced in AI, and the highs and lows of it and the mistakes you might make. And so that's the gap I'm trying to cover. So, for example, I have a course right now that is on strategy and just how to separate hype from performance when it comes to AI projects. It's going to be about 2 hours long. It's going to be recorded and available on my website. That's one thing that I'm doing. I'm doing a 6 module course on the mini MBA, AI mini MBA, which is look, the new MBA has to have AI.
yes.
And the mistake people make is they think AI is something that you add on. No, it is the new way of doing business. It is a new way of
Right.
doing marketing. It is a new way of doing strategy. It is a new way of doing operations. It is a new way of doing customer experience and risk management. Nobody teaches people like that. We treat it as some external object, but it is the new operational system.
So I'm fascinated by that because you're right. I'm thinking about my own experience of the availability of theoretical or academic or the tool itself. Like, here's how to use the platform, the tool, the software somebody's selling versus here's how to integrate it into your day to day. Here's how to augment your work. Here's how to change the way you're doing the work. You mentioned sort of play or get in a relaxed environment. Um, I have found that, I'll pull up Chat GPT and I'm gonna tell on myself, but I just figured out that you can create project files. And
Yes.
so right? And so it's simple thing. But as I was just playing around, it's low risk. I'm doing it kind of just as I'm sitting there, maybe having a bite to eat, during the middle of the day, what have you. And I'm like, "Oh," and then it can remember certain things. So I'm still I'm a writer, so I love
Yes.
to put my own content in, but I do really like the notion of go and give me source data or
Mm,
evidence data. Bring me the source, right? So I'm a stickler about I don't trust it, just open trust, right? I want to know, where did you get this information? Is it trustworthy data, et cetera? Will in your mini MBA cover ethics and some of those kinds of things as well, or at least some of the flaws of trusting the technology, without having some discernment.
100%. And it's
Yeah.
such an important point that you raised, which is that we have to be confident in our own intuition, in our own knowledge, and we cannot subsume, our opinion beneath that of the machine because it is fallible. It can make mistakes. One of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of us start with personal productivity, which is fantastic. But
Mhm.
the jump from personal to team productivity, whether that team is you and some agents or you and your team and some AI agents, to organizational productivity, there's nothing really out there. So one of the things that I do is I literally provide the worksheets. This is how you should think through how you should measure ROI. This is the 7 things, the friction that you may have to look at data and talent feasibility. And then I have a new module that is just on process redesign. So people
Mm.
think I'm just going to automate the chaos, right? I do something, oh, I wish I could just do it faster. But
Yes.
actually, AI allows you to redesign the process, but nobody teaches you how because you have to have gone through the pain of it. And
Yeah.
it's also new for me. We're all learning.
We're all learning,
This
yeah.
is the beautiful part about where we are right now, but we can help each other and
Yes.
share our experiences. And therefore, I just think it's more fun when we're all working together, we're all succeeding as a community.
Yeah, that's a really great point because you're right. And the natural place to start is from a productivity perspective and
Mm.
starting with your personal productivity. I hadn't really thought about it in the context of then how do you bring that to a team and then an organization makes so much sense. Makes me think of the Ford quote that it's not just about building faster horses, right? When he was building the
Yes.
car, it's like, we don't
Yes.
just need faster horses, we need something entirely different. And sometimes I think we approach technology with this trying to make faster horses, instead of saying, "Let's just redesign this altogether. How could
Mm.
this look differently?" Everything that you're talking about, including the do work differently, market differently, AI isn't going
Mm.
away, it's not a fad, makes me think about the person listening that's going, "Oh my gosh, that's why I'm so worried that my job is going
Mm.
to completely go away," right? And we keep hearing that and, call me an eternal optimist, but I don't think jobs are gonna go away. But from your perspective, and this is where I think you link so beautifully the human aspect, talk about what I call the uniquely human advantage. What are those things that people will continue to need to do? The attributes that you see, and particularly in women, as that's our audience, because I think, frankly, my opinion, I think
Yeah.
we have a bit of an advantage in this space.
It's first of all, we can't put our head in the sand and
Yes.
like an ostrich, we have to acknowledge that many tasks will get automated. And you can see it in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And when you see that, it will make you nervous. So we have to acknowledge that it makes us kind of nervous. I have an AI company. I have AI engineers. AI is not writing AI, right? So I have two choices of my hundreds of engineers. I can get nervous and say, oh my God, this is the end. Or I can say, wow, this is actually pretty cool because now I can serve double the amount of clients. So at our annual dinner, I told my team the old way of building an engineering consulting firm was to keep adding people. I said, we are going to double our productivity, serve our clients twice as well with the same number of people. And
Yes.
that's exciting because that means that as a business, the focus is still the same, serve clients better. but we now have another lever to pull. That's the attitude we need to have. It's a mindset of looking at the fact that it's going to automate some tasks, and then how are you going to use that free time? So
Yes.
that's the first thing, is actually sitting down with yourself and your team and really planning how you're going to use that free time to maybe do a side hustle, to do more at your current job, to take on more clients, to put your hand up and learn things. So that's one way in which you can plan your future, because there's always space for people who know how to problem solve in a digital economy. How do
Mm,
I know that? Because the World Economic Forum did a jobs report in 2025 and interviewed 1,000 CEOs that together employ 14 million people. And they said, what's the biggest disruption you're going to have? And the CEO said, of course, it's AI. And they said, well, does that mean you're going to fire everyone? And they said, oh, God, no. We actually want people who will work with AI and help build an AI enabled human led organization. And there's a skills gap. So, actually, for anyone listening, well, this is a godsend. There is
mm.
a gap in the market. You have expertise. You need to just learn a little bit and just go for it.
Right,
I'm not
right.
saying that it'll be the same for our grandchildren. They will have other challenges, but then there'll be other problems to solve. I was just talking to someone whose son wants to be a lawyer, and it's hard for first time law graduates to get a job these days. So I was saying, look, he should look at AI at the moment. And then, of course, there's so many issues that are going to come up. New laws will have to be formulated, new patents will have to be filed. He can go into healthcare, he can do frontier risk in Google, he can do 17,000 different things if he just has the right approach for it. And I think
Yeah.
that that is very true of our children, our grandchildren. And for us, we don't even need to think so much, because right now there's an obvious gap in the market that we can step into.
Absolutely. I was reading a post today by Anita Letic, I believe is how her
Mm,
last name is pronounced. She's out of the Netherlands. And she was talking about the fact that people are saying AI is replacing all these jobs. And she said, but the data and the evidence isn't there. Aside from people looking at what organizations are saying, the rest of the data,
mm,
yes, graduates are having more difficult time finding work
yeah.
because we're graduating more people. So when you look at the workforce and you look at the number of graduates and the placement, it's all in the numbers. Yes, we're graduating more people. So therefore, there's that gap, but it's not as though that is s- directly linked, relationally linked, correlative to AI. So you talked about two things in particular. One is planning how to use the free time. I really love that because I think every person listening can think about, okay, if I'm worried that AI can do a portion of my job, what is that? Let's name it.
Yes.
And what would I do with the time if that was automated? It makes me think back to all the years that I was in human resources as a chief HR officer. And every year, the training and development budget would get slashed. I remember being in
Yeah.
an organization, and for almost 13 years, we had the same budget, right? The company grew, all the things, because it was harder to justify the ROI. And so it would get left on the cutting room floor. And my response as a business leader was to say, we can do these 100 things this year if we can add a person or two or whatever it might be. If we have to slash the budget and we have to stay net neutral, we can only do these 80 things out of the 100 that you've asked us to do, right? So my strategic response would be to show them, here's what you're going to leave on the table if we can't change the budget year over year. What this says to me is exactly to your point, it's a false force multiplier, is we can now do the 100 things with the same
Yes.
people and not increase the budget. So it's a win-win. We're not forced to either work 80 hours a week to get it done, and the business isn't forced to continue to add headcount, it becomes a force multiplier, an economy of scale. So I love this idea about think about what you would otherwise do in your free time. And then that growth mindset, which you talk about. You have to show up. You have to whether it's dabble and play in a safe and relaxed environment, but also find those tools and that information to help advance your own technical agility, right?
We have to be
Yeah.
we have to be very proactive for ourselves, for those we care about, because the education system and the corporate machinery is not there at the moment. Very few companies are actively upskilling their employees. Some are, and the ones that do are will see them. They will just go way ahead of the others. But this is we have to have the agency. This is the moment for us to decide who are we in an age of AI and where are the opportunities, and also to be mentally prepared for a little bit of friction in our
Mm.
lives, which we are not used to. We're used to a pretty linear path as we get senior and more senior.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a bit uncomfortable, but if you can, the sooner one can have a proactive approach instead of a passive approach, the more likely it is to be able to result in more job security in the future.
It's interesting. I was talking to Ruth Pierce recently. She's a workforce futurist,
Mm,
originally from the UK, but spent many couple decades now in the US. She had this observation. I'd be interested from you living in Singapore if you share this observation. She said, it's interesting to me that in the US in particular, there's very much sort of a culture of you trust the hierarchy. You
mm.
trust that employees are assuming that their leaders and their organizations are preparing for technological advancement, that they're thinking about it, that putting systems in place, et cetera. And so they're sort of just going, okay, well, they'll figure it out and they'll let me know because they're in charge. And the leaders, on the other hand, are kind of going either dump everything into technology and because it's new and it's sexy and it's shiny, or or they're sort of sitting back and going, let everybody else go first and then we'll figure it out, right? In other words, they're not necessarily in a lot of cases moving forward strategically. And at some point, that culmination of employees sort of sitting back expecting somebody else to figure it out and organizations maybe either over or under investing in upskilling, that's going to have a collision point in my estimation.
That is going to have a collision point, and those companies won't do well who are
Right.
not investing in their own AI strategy, first of all, and then bringing their employees with it so that they can grow as a company. And that's what the markets really reward is growth. Growth means you have more customers who are more loyal and are giving referrals to other customers that are coming.
Yeah.
That is the secret of an organization that is well respected in the market. And employees need to stop being have these blinders on. Just go in, do your work, go home, have your dinner. I know it's a lot. We're all in the same boat with our parents, our teenagers, our kids, our grandkids, our mortgages, our health, the pollution, the geopolitical stresses. But we have to now realize that we have to up our game a little bit, and there's help available. So
Yes.
when people say, "Look, it's a teacher," and in Korea, they had a kindergarten teacher, and then they tried to have a robot teacher as well to teach English. And I remember someone saying, "Oh, this is terrible." And I said, "It's only terrible if the teacher put in the work and was not regurgitating the same lesson day in, day out for the last 10 years.
Right.
If the teacher is paying attention to every single student, if she or he's sitting with the student and giving them care, giving them personalized help, then you are better than a robot, or you can work with the robot. But if you are not going to pay attention to what is happening at your job beyond the tasks that are just given to you, And if some of those tasks, even though you hate them, but they're just monotonous and boring, but at least they're there and that's you're used to it, that is going to be a shock to our system. And we're all like that. I'm like that. We're all like that. But this is a world that requires us to really go for our own
Mm,
potential. And I feel
mhm.
so many of us have that potential, but we've been suppressing it because the job won't allow it. But now with an AI assistant, which each one of us will get, we can really experiment and be bold and stand out the way each one of us is very capable of doing. I think this is the one thing I know you agree with me. There is something remarkable about every single person I have ever met in my entire life
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
is valuable to some organization, some brand, some community, some nonprofit, whatever they may be
Yeah,
interested in.
absolutely.
And so the worst thing we can do is lose our confidence in ourselves in an age of AI.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it gets back to, I mean, you're just singing my music here. It's that which is uniquely human, and every single human being has natural gifts and talents and potential and significance. And so I think for the person listening, it's
Mm,
take the time to literally identify and write down what are those attributes of yours in your job, in your position that are uniquely human, and how could you do more of them if you had the time because you were not doing so many, tick the boxes kind of, routine kinds of things. I mean, I could think of a lot of things already that probably could be automated. So I'm going to take your advice and lean into doing a bit more education because I know that there are things that would allow me more time to be a thought leader, more time to write, more
yes.
time to work with my clients if I wasn't generating some of the uh, rote kinds of everyday things. Your example of the teacher is a beautiful one. It also makes me think about healthcare. I mean,
Yes.
realizing that Aisha's sitting there and she's got her arms as though she's chilly, and note and observing that and going and getting a warm blanket and bringing it in.
Yeah.
You look like you're cold. Um, that compassion in healthcare, for example, and then using the technology to do things that the the computers can do better than we can because it can source millions of data points and spit out trends that a human being may not be able to ever observe on their own, but it doesn't take the doctor out of the equation. It helps the doctor to then use discernment and problem solving and conceptualization to say, okay, how does this data make sense? I mean, that's where human beings show up.
Absolutely. And while I think a lot of people talk about compassion and empathy, I think it doesn't mean that's all that is of value in a human being. In fact, human beings can then work with the AI and solve diseases. Then they can think of women who are can have children when they're going through infertility and nothing is working. Already, we're seeing some research come through, right? So I really don't think that there is this sense that which I find it hard to reconcile with, which says that the only thing left for humans to do is to be caring, empathetic, and nice to each other.
Mm,
And I think, no, we are capable of so much more. We are capable of going into space. We are capable of solving climate change. We are capable of, um, there are some people bringing back ancient species, then somebody else needs to make sure that ancient species is taken care of, but also does not attack us. For every new thing that comes, there is good and bad, exciting and depressing, and we need to work together with AI and to govern AI to do it. So I think there's lots and lots to do if
mm,
we just open our eyes to what is possible and just think that it's a different kind of intelligence.
right.
And who knows, one day, if there is a neural link, we may be directly augmented and they may be challenges to that have to be figured out. So there's more work
Right.
to be done there. But there may also be interesting results that come out of there, which are safe for us as humans, but also really beneficial for us as a species. So as you can see, it doesn't stop.
Right.
The thing is, we can't imagine it. So we just put a ceiling to what we're capable of doing. If I was a doctor, I would think, my God, there's like decades of work in front of me. Like
That's right.
decades. Not just immediately, but really not seeing the pain of my patients, being there for them, yes, but also literally that research, what excited me about it. Or let me go somewhere. Maybe I'll go to medical diagnostics. Maybe I'll make a device. I mean, there's no end to it because I
Yes.
care and I've studied it. So we do need to study it. Specialization does matter. Even if you have the most highly specialized, intelligent AI assistant, your own specialization also matters. So we need to put in the work, but not doubt ourselves, not limit ourselves to just
Yeah.
being, you know, just being not one dimensional, but just thinking that all we have to offer is like care. There's more than
I
that.
That is so provocative and so mic drop moment. It really has my head spinning because we can. I mean, I'm guilty, right, of thinking about you just have to figure it out as though there's a start, middle, and stop. This is ongoing, it's going to continue, and as a researcher, just listening to I'm thinking about all the times I think to myself, "That would be a great study." I wish I had the time because that would be a
Yeah.
great study. I'd love to know if there's a correlation there, and because then I could do something about that problem that then I can understand the correlation, and to think that data becoming more available to us so then we're equipped to do bigger, more important things is exciting. I can feel your energy and your excitement. Instead of that daunting
Yeah.
fear and anxiety that so many people feel, my hope is that the woman listening or the person listening is feeling like, "Wait a minute. I need to change my mindset." You said that earlier. "I need to change my mindset about how I'm thinking about this." I wanna switch gears for just a moment because
Mm.
you have been, really invested as well in girls and in STEM and getting girls more into technology, and I just wanna give you a moment to talk about your passion around that and the way you're showing up with that and frankly the way others can continue to show up and instill that for particularly our young girls and young women.
So women in tech has always been very important to me. I actually started off when I was an undergraduate doing internships in human rights and women's rights. So my whole attitude towards technology and AI is very human centric. And it comes from a place of humanity. So I studied both humanities and I studied STEM. So I really believe that the individual and their agency, their empowerment, the meaning of their life, the respect and dignity that they must have, that all of us should have, is very important. So when you have AI, people say somebody should have data dignity. Like, don't take their data away, give it the respect and dignity. So even when you're working with AI, in a world of AI, it's very important to me that people have that sense of self, that sense of meaning. And the only way to do that is to first make them comfortable with what AI is. So I started this charity for 10 years where we taught girls the basics of AI and how to problem solve with it and how to do it ethically. And the second thing is for them to learn some of the ways that the patterns in which people are problem solving with AI and what's possible to do and to think out of the box. And when they do that, their confidence level and happiness level really goes up. It's kind of like going
Mm.
for a run or go to the gym, right? You come back and you're on a high. When you see the potential, it really unlocks in you that desire to actually innovate and problem solve. Cynthia, when we talked about people feeling anxious, it's it's because we have this conversation and then we go for a job interview or we go to work and it's kind of deflating because
Mm.
you don't get the job, you're hustling, you're doing everything, and you don't get the promotion or you're just burnt out. I mean, not everything has to do with AI, but this is
Right.
the reality of our lives. And and we have to acknowledge that it is not that you just do this and suddenly all the doors open up. They're very rare. We see these startups, they suddenly are worth billions of dollars. That's extremely rare, and more power to them. Maybe that was their
Right.
journey, but it's very, very uncommon. And for the majority of us, like me, for example, I need to think of new things. I spend a lot of time, to be honest, like you have to divide our time. One third of your time, you're thinking literally. What's the path? What's the strategy? And I do have that one third more time because AI is doing a lot of my tasks. That is very true. And I do get to go to the gym because AI is doing my tasks. And then one third of the time, I'm actually out there trying to talk to clients, win clients. And then one third of the time, I'm managing literally my AI agents and my team.
Mm,
So we kind of need to like redivide our time and be a bit patient. But I don't want anyone to think that we're being dismissive of the reality of how women feel sometimes and rightly feel.
yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe it's not next month, but certainly it compounds, right? So if
Yeah.
in 6 months you've learned all of this stuff, you're showing up at meetups, you're going and putting your hand, somebody's going to notice.
That's right.
And if nothing else, when you go to that interview, go to your client, you would be just speaking in a much more educated manner. And
Yeah.
that pays off. That always pays off.
Absolutely. And I wanna highlight the fact too that you have been an advocate in this space. And so for the person listening that is in the tech space and has risen to a level of influence, pay it forward. Send the
Yeah.
elevator down. Reach out and link arms with, those young women. Help to fix the broken rung that so many women, particularly in the STEM fields, face. I mean, in all industries and in all fields, but particularly in STEM. I think that we have a real obligation and a responsibility to pave the way for others, as you have done, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Um, Gosh, our time is just flying by. I ask all of
Okay.
my guests one last
Yes.
question for you, which is what is the one thing you would invite the person listening to start doing, stop doing, and continue doing?
Well, I would love for them to start reading, let's say TechCrunch or a newsletter for just 5 minutes a day. So usually when you get a newsletter, like my newsletter, you see it says this will take 7 minutes. Don't even read the whole thing if you don't want to. Read just 5 minutes. Put a timer on and read it. And that's it. Just do that for 1 month. And if at the end of that, you do not feel like, you know what? I'm kind of getting it. Then I'll, I'll have to eat my hat or whatever they say,
Right.
right?
Right.
I mean, I think it's going to be very unlikely that you just don't get into the vibe. So that's the first thing you should do. And maybe that's the only thing you need to do for a few weeks because then automatically your motivation will go and you'll start looking for something else.
That's right.
But the most important thing is to get comfortable with it. And then what I want you not to do is to go and panic and look at um, AI courses that are not by people who are have enterprise experience. A
Mm,
lot of us, it depends on our profession now also, right? So there are courses that make sense for white collar worker like information workers like us. But then if you're a teacher or if you are a doctor, you need to look and there are not enough courses, which is why I'm starting this company that is specifically for role-based professions.
mm,
So that you understand your workflow. If you're a radiologist, you have a different need. So it's okay. You can wait a bit. Like they'll start coming within the next year, 6 months, they'll start coming. But if you don't go to a generic course with all this jargon, and then it'll just make you upset and depressed. So you don't want to do that. Instead, what you should do is you should go and maybe put a Google alert for AI in radiology or AI in food, whatever it is, and start reading about it. That
Yes.
is a better use of your time than anything else. And so what was the third one, Cynthia?
Continue.
Oh, I think you should continue to do and love, hopefully, what you're doing, and really realize, continue to realize that all that experience that you have, all of those hours that you spent in school, all of those frustrating, happy, sad, meaningful, and it's always like that, hours that you spent at every job that you've had, they count for something. Continue it, because that experience is what makes that human AI partnership valuable to a company. If
Mm,
you don't do that and you just take AI as it is, then that is not going to get you the strategic job that you want. So I would say
yeah.
that's the three things I would recommend.
I love it. I love it so much. You have been just full of wisdom and information and insights. We will have all of your contact
Okay.
information, of course, in the show notes. We want to make certain, but for the person maybe listening, the best way to reach out to you and to learn more.
Is on my website, aishakhanna.com. And there you can have a contact form. Cynthia, thank you so much for having me. This always we have the best conversations
We
anyway.
do. We do, and time just flies by. I hope that you guys listening, that the person listening, that this conversation resonated deeply. There's so much to learn, but do something. Get started. Start planning how you're going to use technology to improve your workplace. Think about how you're going to use your free time differently. Look for those courses and information like what Dr. Aisha has where they're really focusing on how to use the technology in ways that are advantageous, not just theoretical or a solution orientation. Get comfortable, play around with the systems, don't be afraid. And you know what? If nothing else, take time to document what makes you uniquely human. That truly is your advantage. Until next time, you've got this. Congratulations on choosing to invest in yourself. I know your time is precious. Thank you for spending it here with me. I believe in helping you look up, step forward, and fully realizing your potential. If today's conversation resonated, I'd be so grateful if you'd rate and comment on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you know someone who would benefit, please share this episode with them. Let's stay connected. Visit me at dr-cynthia.com, and you can find me on all the socials at Dr. Cynthia Bentzen-Mercer. Until next time, remember, boldly start working on your future today.